Hey, what's up, everybody? Billy Ward here with the Billy Ward Podcast, episode number 6. Incredibly excited about our guest today, Joe Gandarillas. Joe, thanks so much for being with us.
Billy, it is so good to be here during a lockdown.
Most definitely. Connecting with you is just, as always, so much fun. So I'm thrilled about the opportunity to be able to talk with you today.
I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Let's kick off with some gratitude, as I do with everyone. Just want to ask you, what are you feeling most grateful for at this moment? Could be something small to anything big. Could list a couple of things, whatever you feel like.
Yeah, I count my blessings every day and several times a day usually. I have an incredible partner and husband. I'm just so lucky and blessed that I have, somebody to go through this journey with. So that's always number one on my list. I'm incredibly grateful for my health right now. And I'm incredibly grateful for this time and the connection I've made with some really great friends, and that includes you. So this time is so well spent for me because I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. We started talking about this way back in September, I think.
It's, yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know where the time goes. I mean, I can remember, sitting in the cafe. This was just an idea.
Yeah, it really was. It's funny sitting in that cafe. I'm reminded I had heard so many things about Joe Gandarillas, Joe Gandarillas. You have to meet Joe Gandarillas, and finally I show up at a studio that you teach at, and you were so warm and receptive, and you passed along your cell phone, and we land in the cafe. We spend like an hour together, and then here I am, like kind of like an adolescent, but really like an evolved adult, right? And I'm like, Joe, I want to be friends with you, dude. And like I didn't even really feel vulnerable in that. It was just the truth that you kind of pulled out of me. And I'm like, there's something here that I'm really attracted to and in alignment with.
Yeah, it was magic on some level, right? Because I remember coming home and I said to Michael, I was like, I just had the most incredible like experience. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, I just met with Billy. He's like, oh, Billy, right? And he remembered, a little bit. I had told him about you, and I was like, we sat, and I said, you would have thought we knew each other
Yeah,
for our entire life.
most definitely.
So I'm so grateful for that connection, and for the people that actually connected us, right? Probably the gals at Lululemon, really.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, super grateful. Joe, you speak so openly and lovingly about your partnership and marriage with Michael. And maybe before we kind of jump into the interview, and I think this has got to be a part of it. I always love when people talk so lovingly about their relationships. And my first want or desire is to kind of pull something out. Like, what's your secret sauce? Like in the time that you guys have spent together, what's the ingredient? What allows you to speak so lovingly about this relationship?
I love that question, and it's probably one of my favorite things to talk about, to be honest with you.
Awesome.
So Michael and I have been together over 30 years,
Mm,
and we met very young. I mean, I know I look like I'm 30, but it's I met Michael out of college. He was really, I mean, just a year out of high school,
mm,
and we worked together. And I always say that I think the first secret sauce is there's got to be some level of chemistry,
sure.
right? There's got to be some level of attraction, and that was immediate. So I was Michael's boss. He got hired to work for me. I was managing a retail store, and he was hired to be my co-manager. And I always say it was love at first sight. And our relationship started very quickly. And I would say the biggest advice that I would give anybody who wants to know, like, oh, how has it worked for this long? And after 33 years, how do you still speak so lovingly about one another? And I say it's communication and how you communicate with people. And I was just sharing this with a client this morning, and because she was talking about the way she was communicating with a spouse. And I shared a story this morning with her about how I was feeling a little off this morning, and I could sense my energy wasn't at its highest. and I could feel, we were both in the kitchen. There was a little bit of tension, I was feeling a little bit impatient about something, nothing to do with him, but I was just standing right in the middle, and I know he felt that energy. Didn't really say anything at the moment. But later on, I approached him and I said, "Hey, listen, I don't think I was, as loving as I really wanted to be this morning. And I wanted to acknowledge that." And and he just said, "I really appreciate you saying that." And he gave me a big hug, and we talked about what I was feeling, and kind of why I was feeling a certain way, and it had nothing to do with him. But we were able to not hold grudges, and we're able to share our feelings openly. So we have something we call the redo, and it's when we don't really like the way that something, when we say, "Hey, is now a good time to redo, because I don't really like the way I was just in that moment." We that's a big thing for us. We pray together every night, at dinner.
Mm.
And so and prayer is just another form of meditation for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just connecting to something greater.
Mm.
And so we have a very strong spiritual connection. But really the secret sauce is when you learn how to speak to each other, both positively, because we have to learn how to speak to our partners in a very positive way.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just want to speak to them when something's wrong. So we really look for the good first, and we really practice that. So it's recognizing, like, when somebody's done something right, or when you've recognized that your partner looks amazing and saying something, versus holding back. We don't hold back, and we do not ever go to bed angry.
Mm. Mm. Joe, I really love all of that. I especially love the redo, and giving our audience some insight as to, we're all the painters of our own picture, right? We're our own artist, and if we don't like the way the canvas is turning out, we could redo it. We could start over.
That's right. And I love that analogy. My husband's an interior designer, and so he's all about the redo. Let's redo this house. So it's like, well, it's like, I always say, in the work that I do, I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, but I'm a life coach, and I'm also a student, and he's an interior designer, but I would say I'm an interior designer too. I help people redesign their interior, and part of that interior space of ourselves is really getting in touch with ourselves, because I don't genuinely believe that anybody really wants to be negative or angry. I think that in all of us there's possibility to expand, to connect to a higher power, to really connect to our own higher self. And it's when we move away from our higher self that things go awry. But we all do it once in a while. But we all have to recognize that feeling. And I felt it. I knew the feeling this morning. I was like, oh, I know this, like, it was there. And we don't have to label it if we don't want to, but there's a feeling when we're disconnected. And to me, I always say, I'm not in relationship to be disconnected. I'm in relationship to stay connected.
Yeah. I love some of what you're saying, just the gratitude, the spirituality, the faith that you guys share, and this awareness, Joe, that within us all there's this inherent want to do good and to be good. I also can't help but connect the dots a little bit from what I'm hearing you saying. I love this idea that when we look for the good, not only in ourselves and each other and in the world, ultimately we're really looking for God.
That's right. That's right. I always say that, most people start their day by activating, like, the memories of the past, right?
Yeah.
And I think especially when you're in relationships, right? It's like, how many people do you know in your life that have not forgotten or forgiven all that stuff from the past? And if you're living by that same familiar thing, the same thoughts from the past, how do you move forward?
Yeah.
And because all you do is you just keep building on the layer and the layer and the layer. And to me, I like to start my day like, I want to surrender to love. Like, I just want to surrender to it. because what are we doing today now, right? Instead of surrendering, like, because how many, and listen, I fell into the trap, to be really honest, surrendering to fear, surrendering to pain, right? When we can surrender to love, like, it's all around us. It really is. It might not feel like it. Some people are feeling deeply alone, and I was too. I mean, and then I was like, but I have so much love in my life.
Yeah.
So to me, I'd rather surrender to something like that.
Joe, how do we help our audience surrender in the way that you've learned to?
I think, Billy, the hardest part of change, right, is deciding not to make the same decision you did the day before. Right. So I think it starts right there. It's like, okay, is this thought the same? Is this action the same? Because if you can wake up and be defined by a vision of the future, right? Like, let's think about, what do we want? What's possible out there? Instead of looking at this pandemic or the crazy world we're in right now. And again, what I'm not saying is that I think this is easy, because I have struggled with it too. Like, I've had to really, really stop, and I've really had to go inside. Um, but I had to come to the realization that I didn't need to be reliant on the outer world to change. Like, I was waiting for that world out there to change, outside of my four walls.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if that's going to change. And I can't even control that, but I can control this world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to for the the listeners today, I say this: it's time to believe in yourself again. It's time to believe in who you are, and we need to assign meaning to this time, right? Like, what is the greatest value I can get by this time, by going inside, by understanding who I am. I mean, Billy, I thought I worked on certain patterns in my life. I thought I got rid of certain ones until this pandemic happened. And I realized, oh man, here it comes again. It was like the lava just blew out of the volcano. And I was like, I didn't remember this for 20 some 30 years.
Mm.
And now all of a sudden I was like, I thought I got rid of that.
Yeah.
And so now I was like, all right, well, what did I do then? I stopped and I just slowed down. I surrendered. I was like, okay, I could either look for the bad or I could look for the good. And so, simple things, and we've all heard of it, right? Like, practice gratitude journal. Like, Michael and I share, gratitude every day, even if it's one thing. Hey, what are you grateful for today? It's like, you have to focus. Like, for me, what I realized, Billy, with like, you're like, well, how do we tell the viewers to do this? First, I want to say, you got to settle down. You got to settle down, because when we're in a fearful place and fight or flight, the mind and the body start, like, it's like rapid acceleration. It's going on the hamster wheel like you can't get off. But there are so many great things we can do. And sometimes it's just connecting with people that can help you get grounded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's not necessarily always, oh, what's the thing I can do? But sometimes it's the connection, so that somebody can actually help and guide you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Most
And,
definitely.
and then it's, listen, there's lots of things you could do. Meditation, but, meditation's not for everybody. Some people struggle with meditation. And I say, well, walking could be a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Getting on your treadmill, that could be your meditation.
Yep.
Right? Like, lifting your weights, let that be your meditation.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Anything to help create that stillness, right?
And you know what? Anything that's going to take you from outside to inside. Listen to your favorite music. Close your eyes. Dream of a world you'd love to be in with that music. To me, I'm like, whoo, take me, Calgon, take me away. I mean, and I believe that the world is, this has happened because we are being called upon to really look at ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe, in terms of, you mentioned you're a yoga teacher, you're a life coach, you teach meditation, you're also a student of yourself. I know that you've worked with a lot of people, and I'm wondering out loud about some of the patterns that you've seen with your clients and with your audience in terms of what is really keeping people from coming to terms with the idea that this inner journey is really what's significant in relation to what we experience outside. Happiness or life is an inside job, right? What's keeping people from committing to this or getting this awareness?
I think it goes back to something I talked about before. When people start their day by going back to old patterns and old thought process. People struggle with change.
Yeah.
People say they want to change, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've seen this in your work. Oh, I want to be different. I want to change. Oh, I want to do, I want to meditate more. I want to do yoga, or I want to commit to therapy, whatever people say. I want to, go on this diet because I want to feel healthier. And then you go, okay, great. Let's set up a plan of attack.
Yes.
And, a week or two later, you're like, hey, how'd it go? God, it was really hard. Yeah, tell me about that. What was hard about it? I just really snacked a lot. Wow. Well, how'd those snacks get in your house? Did they find they have legs and crawl there?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you pick those when you went to the store? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like there's a, so what I try to teach people is to raise their consciousness, right? It's like to be aware. Hey, I have a choice in this matter. Like, so I think a big part of struggle that people have is what really is the level of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody says to me, hey, I want to change X, and I say, how badly? They say, what do you mean? I go 1 to 10. 1 to 10. Yeah, I want to be different. Like, Billy, give me something that that somebody might say to you. Oh, I want to change.
I want to be in healthier shape.
Okay, great. So you want to be in healthier shape. So Billy, so how badly? 1 to 10 would you tell me?
The magazine pictures look nice, and when I'm on the beach in the summer, I think about it. But in December through March, I'm kind of like whatever. So about a 6, I would say.
So it's a 6. But if you were going to say how badly do you really want it right now? Like how badly do you want to really get in shape and look good?
I'm playing the role of somebody else, right?
Yep.
I want it, but I don't know if I want to do everything that I have to do to get there.
All right. So when you say you're a 6 or 7, maybe, right? So then I say, okay, well, let's look at how you did last week. Let's look at all the things you did. And then you go, okay, well, were those the things that you committed to? Like, would you say those are a 6 or 7? See, what I find that most people will go, oh, I want to let's just say that one. Oh, I want to get in shape. Well, how badly do you want that? Oh, 9 or a 10. 9 or a 10 is usually your prime answer. So I think that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
And I go, so, all right. So if I had a camera on you last week and, I was filming you, whether you were working out or not working out, or whether what the food choices you were making, or you were in the grocery store, what you were picking, or you were at a restaurant and the menu choices. Were they a 9 or a 10? Were you a 9 or a 10? Because I say, the world's highest performing people are a 10.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They don't mess around. They're a 10 because they want it that badly.
Mm.
So I would say when you want it that badly, then you act like a so if you say I just want it as a 6, I go, okay, well then act like a 6.
Yeah.
But you can't act like a 3 and be a 6.
Yeah.
It's no different than what we're dealing with right now, right? See, because people say, oh, it's scary out there. And I say, it is scary out there. Okay. And that's low level energy. So what do we have to do? We have to raise our vibration to be higher than that energy. And how do we raise our vibration? It starts with the way we think. Right.
And Joe, I hear you saying it, and I love the simplicity of this because I'm a simple guy. And sometimes people ask me about the structure of my day. And, I think very thoughtfully and deliberately about my day and what I do. Almost like I'm in second grade. Like I have an action, then there are consequences to that action. Do I like those consequences? And if so, I'm going to continue to do that. And if not, I'm going to probably change the course of action. How do we get people to to motivate themselves to recognize that it might be a little scary and a lot of unknown at first to cultivate that change, but the benefits of being courageous enough to create those actionable steps is going to be far better than what you're experiencing in the moment.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And I would say, well, usually we come to a place when we don't like how we feel about something, right? There's a feeling. I don't like how I feel physically. I don't like how I feel in my relationship. I don't like how I feel in my job. I don't like where I live. There's a feeling, right? It's not like it was like my conversations when it was a feeling I had.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what it feels like to feel great, and we all know what it feels like when it doesn't feel so great. So you've got to connect with the feeling first, and then you go, well, how do I want to feel? And I do this in meditation all the time. All right, I get people to a place, Billy, where I'm like, you are in, like, I want you to dissolve in all space and time, because in that space is where all possibility exists. And then I say, what is that vision of the future you have for yourself? And I say, what is it? And people will, I mean, I can't tell you the things people say they've manifested just from this stuff. They dissolve, they become nothing. You literally, like, you think of yourself like Star Trek, dissolving into that galaxy where you are everything. Yeah. And then you go, in this space is where everything exists. Mm-hmm. Now, what the heck do you want? Because your frequency, remember I said about the raising the vibration? If you raise your vibration, you're going to meet that same vibration out there in the field.
Yeah.
And the way, but it's more than that, right? It's more than just going, oh, well, I want a relationship. Okay, well, great. There's your frequency. But the way they connect is by the feeling. And what's the feeling you're going to have when it comes? You go, I'm going to experience the most heart-opening love that I've ever experienced, the biggest amount of joy, and you connect to that feeling and you feel it. And that's what creates the frequencies, helps them meet. So we don't just go, it's not like, oh, I just, I want $1 million. Oh, I want, I want a beach body, whatever. It's like, what's it going to feel like when you get it?
Yeah. And then connecting people to that feeling.
And that's it, right? Like, so where are people connected to today? To the fear, to the worry. And listen, Billy, I fell into it. Like, I totally fell in. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a minute. I teach people how not to do this. And so, and I'm actually happy I fell in. And the reason I'm happy I fell in is because it makes me real. And it makes me, like, I'm not some guru out there, I'm real, just like everybody listening today.
Yeah, no, Joe, I appreciate you sharing your humanness, and I'd like to get into that in when we get into the shift, because sometimes people look at people like you, life coach, yoga, meditation, beautiful house. You must have all your shit together all the time, and as you so openly speak about that, that's not true.
Yeah, I'll share something very vulnerably. I had a friend of mine who lives in another part of the country, and she was a student of mine for many years. And she called, and this is during the pandemic. And I think you and I spoke. We experienced some loss in our friend circle, and we had some employees who were sick, and that was there was a lot of traumatic things happening. Yeah. And, this employee talked to me, she called, she used to live here. She's down in another state now. And we talked a little bit about it. At that point I was like, it's been very, pretty stressful. And she's like, well, this isn't the Joe I know. And this isn't, and I said, and I very calmly and very nicely said, and she's like, you're like, so up there. You're, this amazing yoga and meditation teacher. I didn't, I'm surprised, she said. And I said, I'm human first. Yeah. And I said, and I have feelings too. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want anybody to think that I'm not human, because I said, yeah, I have my meditation and my yoga practice, and I have an amazing support of people in my life. But guess what? It doesn't mean I'm not going to experience stress or pain. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to snap out of it with like just snapping my finger. A lot of times I can, but in this particular instance, it was harder for me.
Yeah.
And it was a longer process for me. And that's one thing I've realized, that this is a process.
Yeah.
And people shouldn't just think, I'm going to meditate once, or I'm going to do yoga once, or whatever you want to do, some form of exercise or some form of connection deep inside, and it's going to change in one day. This is it. This is a lifetime of learning.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree with you more. Joe, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast today and for just being such a superhuman being. I'd love to have you back at some point, and the wisdom and the grace that you've bestowed upon our audience is something that I'm certainly grateful for. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
hey, I am equally blessed, and you know what? I'll be back. I look forward to being back. You're gonna have a hard time getting rid of me. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're in it for a lifetime, you and I.
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. Joe Gandarillas, much peace and love. We'll talk to you soon.